Hello, everyone. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Emily.
And we're the hosts of the I Don't Think So podcast. Each episode, we decide if we think a conspiracy, story, or anything else is believable, or if we really don't think so.
Here at the I Don't Think So podcast, we are affiliated with Flurry Sports, and we present our theories, stories, mysteries, and whatever else we freaking talk about on your favorite place to listen to podcasts every single Wednesday. So, if you like what you hear, go ahead and give us a like and share, and go ahead and follow us on all of our socials at I Don't Think So _EH. We're on X, Threads, Instagram, and YouTube at IDTS Conspiracies.
Yeah. Well, we are wrapping up 2023.
Which is not crazy.
In December with our last conspiracy of the month.
You know what my funny thing is? Is so I'm a 99 baby. So I always was like, oh, I'll always know my age because I'm always just one more year than whatever year it is.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice if I was like 2000 baby? Whatever.
Oh,
I digress. But I just need to know what year it is. I was always like, oh, it's going to be so easy when I'm old and start forgetting. I don't know what year it is now.
That's my problem is I think, I don't know if it's like a post-COVID thing or if it's just an adult thing. But I feel like I was always very much like I always knew the year.
Oh, yeah.
And then after that, like after COVID, it's just been a blur. But I don't know if it's because of that or if it's just because I'm an adult now or like why. But I agree.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it'll be so easy to know how old I am. I don't know what year it is.
No.
I wrote 2018 on a paper the other day, and that's wrong.
I did that the other day too. It was like 20. It was a teen. I don't know if it was 2018 or 2017 or something like that. And I'm like, whoa, we're way up, like 6 years off.
Like that's not right. That's not close. Yeah.
Well, that's funny that you speak of the year 2000 because
in the year 3000.
That is where our theory kind of begins today. And this is a solved conspiracy theory, but it really was this giant hysteria that people just freaked out. So I'm guessing you've heard about it, but have you heard about the Y2K hysteria?
I've heard of it. I've never really looked a ton into it. It just, a lot of it was like, wasn't it like some calendar? Was it the Mayan calendar ended? No, that was something else.
That's 2012.
Oh, cool. Anyways, they thought with like the turn of the century, the world was going to end. So you had a lot of like those doomsday preppers and all that jazz.
Yes. And so I just wanted to talk about the Y2K hysteria and some of the theories of what people thought was going to happen when the year 2000 occurred. And obviously we live in like past that and we can like say what really happened. So I didn't quite understand. Like I remember people freaking out because it'd be like a new millennium, everything like that. Right. But I didn't quite understand where a lot of the hysteria was coming from. And it actually came mostly revolving around computers. So like in the early days of electronic computers, memory was like not very efficient.
Sure.
And so to be able to like save memory space when people were coding a lot of like all computer-based things, they would save in like fewer digits. So for instance, for January, it would be like 01, like January 1st, 1999, it would say like 010199. They'd take out the 19.
Yeah.
Because, and I was thinking about this too, like nowadays we don't say like 23, like 2023. We always say like 2023, but like prior to like the year 2000, everyone always just said like 98 or the 90s or like, I was born in 98. Like if I said 98, like everyone would know exactly what I said. But like people don't say like, oh, I was born in 14 anymore. Like people don't say that. But back then it was so popularized that like they just left it out of all computer-based coding. And so a lot of this came from as the year 2000 approached, they're like, we're not going to be able to like shorthand Y2K, so year 2000, because as it goes back to 00, they thought the computers wouldn't be able to understand that it's not 1900, it's really 2000.
Sure.
Because everything was coded to be in the 1900s. So this became like this large hysteria phenomenon of like everything based in early computer programs. And so people thought if left unfixed, like computer hardware, software, communications worldwide could completely have malfunctioned. And it continued to be called like the Millennium Bug. And people genuinely thought this is going to be like this big catastrophic thing because all of these networks that have become integral to like banking, communication, transportation, medicine, even like within the judicial system and governments had all been based in this computerized assistance. And so people were genuinely scared that like this is going to be like the end of the world. Like, big deal.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, we came to it, and nothing really happened.
Yeah.
However, many state a lot of these problems that they feared were then fixed prior because of all of this hysteria. But it still left many, very seriously concerned about what the impacts of this millennium bug would happen. So here are, 7... really out there wild predictions about Y2K. And I've actually found a couple extra ones to add, but these were some of the more popular ones. So the first one was a prediction that prisons doors would just fly open, freeing violent criminals because all of the electronic doors and locks would just decide to not work anymore.
Sure.
Because they would all pretty much be shut down.
They're like, your sentence
once
good.
The year flipped, they'd be like, oh, now the computers malfunctioned, all these doors would open, and all of these prisoners would be running rampant through the streets. And so even beyond that, normal citizens cut off basic resources and became off the grid because they didn't trust any electronic systems,
right?
Even motion sense doors and things like that. Okay, so additionally, another prediction was that planes would just fall out of the sky. Again, people thought because of the computer-based systems within the airplanes that it would just they'd be 30,000 feet in the air and something catastrophic would happen. It would stop, the computers would shift overnight and then just cease to work. Engines would shut off and they'd just drop out of the sky. And so pretty much all these airlines are being investigated to make sure that everything worked. And they put in sufficient work ahead of time to make sure that their computer systems were all okay to go. That they could be have safe landings. And many flights were even canceled during this time just to make sure nothing would happen.
They're just in case.
Yeah. Okay. A third prediction was that 911 would cease operating. The phone lines would just completely shut off. And so they're imagine your toaster catches on fire, and because of Y2K, your house is just now going to burn down because you can't call 911, and you're going to call and get a busy signal because none of the computers or phone lines are working, and everyone's going to die. These are serious articles people are posting, be careful not to start any fires on New Year's because no one's going to save you.
You will die alone.
Yeah, and so pretty much emergency lines were continuously investigated by experts, and 911 call centers were getting switched to different digital databases and radio things just to make sure that if this happened, they would have a backup line, which is still a little ridiculous.
Morse code.
And so they were saying, but even and people were continuing to call 911 too with all these other predictions too.
Oh,
boy. Of things that could happen. And they said by August 1999, about 37% of call centers were still receiving daily Y2K complaints.
Can you imagine being an operator?
Being freaked out, yeah.
Being this is not an emergency.
Right.
Like, I understand, like, you're stressed. You need to go talk to a therapist.
No kidding.
Scream into the void. I don't know it, but you're clogging the line.
Right. This next one has been now cited as similarly to like the COVID pandemic hysteria of people using like toilet paper and other basic necessities as like currency because of how much shortage there were. And so like they thought like one of the biggest fears surrounding the Y2K was like a collapse of infrastructure, utility stores, ATMs, everything's going to go offline, making transactions like really difficult. And so one Y2K futurist named Gary North recommended that people stockpile toilet paper, not only in case of personal need, but in the chance that they could use it to barter different items. And so they genuinely thought like this material could be used as currency. And it was like people studying Y2K being like, yep, you should do this because it's scary.
Which like here. And then the COVID pandemic was the exact same way. And firstly, COVID at least came out in the year where we have a little more structural. Buy a fucking bidet. Right? All right?
Or use a towel.
Are we so concerned that we can't wipe our ass? Turn on the shower and scrub. Like, we've got other options.
This is not necessarily
And they're like, you know what? No. If I can't wipe my ass with Cottonelle, I don't want to live.
No, Angel soft. Oh, God. Yeah. So that was a big one. Like people, and I think I remember, okay, so like obviously I was 1.5 and you were just turning 1.
Yeah.
Like when this happened, like not quite 1.
Yeah.
And so we don't remember it happening. No. But I remember during COVID, like people comparing this to like, the Y2K hysteria. Yeah. And I can only imagine, like, based on what I saw during the COVID pandemic, like what this was like. And all different stuff were being stockpiled, like different.
I'm sure it was like canned foods, water.
Making shelters, and that we'll get into that later.
Perfect.
But anyway, the next 5th prediction was that GPS satellites were going to fail, leaving people stranded. So they're thinking even like cars, boats, portable forms of navigation that had different GPSs. And the U.S. Department of the Interior warned that GPS satellites might malfunction, rendering the receivers useless. And so, like, if you're camping or if you're traveling somewhere you don't know, you could get lost. And so an Interior Department spokesperson, an Interior Department spokesperson named Steve Kling told the Desert News, if you're out on the desert and you're not paying too much attention to nautical navigation, there could be a problem. So, like, even though they're saying it's a little ridiculous, they're like, it could potentially happen. So, like, you need to be prepared if you're traveling during this time. But he's like, but to take it seriously, if we lose just one person, it's one person too many. So he's like urging people to check their devices with their manufacturer to make sure that it was ready for Y2K, which is just, again, like contributing to this hysteria of like, it's not going to work. Even though I checked it, it's still going to malfunction.
It's going to break.
Yes. Number 6 is that elevators would stop working. So, some people really like continue to talk to different like building managers, saying that elevators ceased operations out of concern and that blackouts might prompt them to stop working. In different residential buildings stopped, like in New York City, stopped elevators at roughly 11:50 and held them open on the ground floor for about 30 minutes just to make sure that everything would be good on the new year.
That's ridiculous.
And then the last like big one before some real crazy ones was that everyone thought that we were just going to be toast as a result of nuclear inhalation. Okay.
Tell me more. Okay.
So people worried that computer problems might influence nuclear defense systems, leading to accidental launches of weapons. And everybody was like super concerned that like because of these nuclear weapons that different countries like the US and like Russia had, that even though they agreed that like they weren't going to nuke each other anymore, maybe their computer systems that controlled these things would just like freak out,
fire,
and like nuke. And so the Deputy Secretary of Defense stated that we're less than optimistic that Russian early warning systems will function properly.
Jesus.
So they're like genuinely concerned. And he said it in the House subcommittee hearing in 1999. And he said it's possible that Russian computer screens could go blank. So they pretty much were just like, we're checking our nukes, but we're not for sure that they're smart enough to figure it out.
Oh, for goodness.
And so they were genuinely like telling people like, you need to be prepared that like
you could
just
get nuked
and like inhale different chemicals or just completely be annihilated. And so that's why people were making different like bomb structures and things like that, because they genuinely thought that they were going to get nuked. Now, these were like some of the more popular ones. If you talk to people that were religious, like a lot of people genuinely thought that this was like the second coming of Christ. And then like other churches were fighting with these other churches because they're like, if you believe that this is the second coming of Christ, it goes against other things in the Bible.
Oh,
blah, blah, blah. It was like a big deal. And so I guess to me, obviously there's conspiracy theories prior to the year 2000, but like this is one that's like, there's so many theories surrounding this one thing that caused people to overplan so much that when it happened, like nothing really broke. Like there's some few minor cases that people reported of like different systems failing, but nothing like people thought like different bank loans would get messed up. So instead of like putting it interest rates for a day, it would be putting interest rates for 1,000 years.
Sure.
Like just like crazy theories that like people thought like, and that was going to cause the stock market to crash. So people are pulling money out of things, and it's like creating more problems than what problems actually occurred.
Right.
All because they were worried about a coding issue in a computer. And then on top of that, they're like, maybe then when we fix it, these computers are going to be so smart that they'll just completely take over the world.
Perfect.
It was like so many extremes that I'm like, there's so many theories based on one simple thing that is just, it was crazy to me.
Yeah, and I think Y2K was one of those first times where like a conspiracy theory really took hold of the majority, you know? Like people who are in high positions of power with jobs, with like education, you know, with the know-how, with the availability of information, we're still like, it probably won't happen, but we're not sure.
Right.
And so I think that's like the first one that you're like, wow.
Like these smart people that develop these things don't even know what's going to happen.
Yeah. That's like the first case of like, this is a mass conspiracy theory that like so many people believed in. I just think like it's hard for me now as a, 24-year-old woman in the year 2023 to be like, we lived before the internet, like people existed. So to me, it's like, yeah, maybe your GPS won't work. Bring a map.
Right.
And a compass.
Mm-hmm.
Just because the computer stopped working doesn't mean like Earth's magnetic pole stops.
Right.
Or they're like, the planes, they'll fall.
Just fall from the sky. Like, that's how a plane works. It's just like all of a sudden the engine stops and it just falls. Like they don't coast down or something.
So it's just, or that like nuclear systems aren't developed with like multiple safe codes, that jails and prisons aren't developed on like an electrical system.
Well, what I think is funny is like, even if it did shut down, that wouldn't unlock something.
No, just lock it.
Right? It just stay locked, right? You probably wouldn't be able to get out.
What a bummer. Or I don't know. I just think it's so many of these like huge, grandiose ideas that it's just like, how did we get here?
And what's crazy is like, there's so many articles that are linked to each of these theories. It's like New York Times is posting stuff on this. And like, I found one from like the University of Minnesota from like 1999. It's like these very large, smart people
are like, you should be worried. This is the end. This is my personal opinion, and you can take it how you want. I don't want to live through the apocalypse. I don't want to be one of the ruffians out there like foraging for food. I'm never going to be a bomb shelter person. You want to know why? I don't want to live through it.
No, like I'll just be done.
Like, I'm sorry. And does that say something about me? Maybe.
I'm a quitter.
I'm a quitter. I don't hunt. I'm not like savvy enough of a survivalist
No.
to even like make a fire.
Also, I get grossed out by stuff easily.
Meat. I'm not like, I don't know plants and herbs and things I can't eat.
Yeah. No.
I'm just not that girl. And I don't want to put in the time, energy, or effort to be that girl. So if a nuke comes down and they're like, yeah, you could live with like major deformities and then have to fight every day for the rest of your life in a new world where everything is trying to kill you. No, let me go with the blast, you know?
Past.
I'm all right.
Yeah. No, there's my theories for you today.
That's a fun one.
And so as we enter into 2024, don't panic.
Don't buy a bidet.
That's a good life.
Well, I thought that with COVID too. Like, everybody's like, oh my God, I need toilet paper. What will I do without toilet? And I'm like, buy a bidet. Take a shower. Wipe your ass with a towel.
There's
I don't know.
so many choices.
So many options. Like, you'll be okay.
Right.
You know what? Like, you don't have anywhere to go anyways, poopy pants.
Shit yourself.
You're fine. Like, if you got skid marks, you've got skid marks.
Only you have to deal with it. And everyone else you're quarantining with.
All the people you're quarantined with are like, I'd rather you, take a shower. Like,
no kidding.
I promise you, it'll be okay. And then everyone afterwards is like, I have 2,000 rolls of toilet paper.
I might have overshot this a little.
It's like, I bet you did. Thanks, everybody. I know. I will say, I went in and was like, I want to make sure we have some, for like the apartment I was in at the time. But then I lived with 7 people. We all bought we had so much toilet paper, and I was like, we are the problem.
See, my problem was when we did it, and I was quarantining with my husband. We were dating at the time. We were like, we don't need, we've got toilet paper. We're fine. And then we are the kind of people that, we're going to wait until we actually need it. And we're like a one-roll household. It needs to be bought today. There is no other choices. We
are down to our last.
We're on our last. There's been moments in our household where we're like, it's only a couple squares left. You can't poop this morning, or wait till you get to work.
You gotta wait.
And so I remember we got to that point where we're down to our last roll. We probably should go. And there was not a single case.
Mm-mm.
And we're like, well, now what? We don't have a bidet. We're gonna have to shower.
Yeah.
And I remember calling his parents who lived an hour and a half away, and they drove us toilet paper from an hour and a half away because we had none. And we're like, we're not even trying to be the crazy people. And I remember going and people being like, there's none left. You can't buy us out anymore. And I'm like, we weren't the problem.
I'm not the problem.
I'm so sorry. It's just the two. I'll take a roll. We'll make it last a week. I don't know what.
Can I have a box of Kleenexes? I don't know.
Well, and that's what I was like. We could get paper towel.
Yeah.
There's so many things.
Yeah, but I mean, all paper. I worked in Menards.
Everything was gone
at the time of COVID during that mass hysteria, and we were getting we had no paper products, and we were getting in the cheapest toilet paper. You hold it up to the light and you can read through it type of toilet. And that was flying off the shelf. And I was like, people,
we are desperate.
I would rather take a shower.
I remember we went to Menards. I remember we went to Walmart. We went to all 3 super ones, and we went up the hill, Target, nothing. There was no toilet paper anywhere. And we're like, well, this is disappointing.
What a time of life to live in,
Yeah.
And guess what? We all made it.
We made it. And I didn't even shit myself once.
I didn't have to take a shower one time. I mean, I showered, but I didn't have to shower because I didn't have something to wipe my ass with.
There you go.
Yeah, no, the things that people go over hysterics about is kind of crazy. Or I remember going to the grocery store and they're like, you can only buy 1 box of mac and cheese.
Yeah.
And I was like, I understand it's shelf stable.
I really like mac and cheese.
I was just gonna buy 2 boxes just to eat for supper tonight.
Yeah.
Because there's 4 of us, and 1 box is not enough.
Yeah.
And they're like, 1 box.
It was 1 a person, so you each have to come in to buy mac and cheese.
And I was like, food, I maybe understood a little bit, like the canned food, the dried food, the things that are shelf stable. Like I understood that
Yeah.
more so of like, especially with COVID, like I'm on lockdown for the next like 2 weeks. I'm not technically supposed to leave my house.
Right.
Like I just want to make sure like I've got all my shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then like people are like, no, toilet paper. And I'm like, don't you recognize? Yeah, again, like a roll is gonna last you like a week, depending on how many people you have in your house, right? But
Right.
like 2 people,
It's gotta last you a few days.
it's gonna last you a little while. Why are we buying 4 32 packs?
Like hundreds of rolls of people. I remember people like having hundreds of rolls of toilet paper in their cart, and it's like, well, I feel bad taking my 4-pack.
They're like, what are you
Oh,
doing?
the mega rolls.
Like, conserve a little. I don't know.
When I'm like, where are you gonna put it?
I know. I don't have that kind of storage.
No.
Who knows? Well, that was a really fun first start of our episode talking about Y2K. Yeah, I know it's one of those theories that you always hear about, but it's like, you think of like the bomb shelters and the like people who are like, it's all going to end. And it's like,
Well, and I was trying to think of something like with the new year, and I'm like, you haven't talked about this.
No.
And it was like a
it
big
was a
deal.
huge deal. Huge theory. Well, that's great. Well, that ends our first chunk of that episode. And we're going to be talking this next chunk of our episode about New Year's resolutions. I thought it'd be fun to kind of, if we have any. I am not a huge
I'm not good at resolutions
setter. In my opinion, I just feel like they're goals. Like, and you can make a goal at any point in time. However, I do think it's fun to be able to have like, what do you want to do in the new year? And it doesn't even have to be like the stereotypical ones of like, I want to like lose weight. I want to run a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not my resolution.
Never.
To run a marathon. Absolutely not. But is there anything like fun you're hoping to do in the new year?
You know, last year during this time, Dean and I were planning our honeymoon, or we're about to go on our honeymoon. And before I went, I downloaded the oh my gosh, no, I'm gonna forget what it's called. It's like an app where you get to rate your books and stuff. Let me see if I. Oh my gosh, I deleted it, obviously. There's this app where you get to rate your books, and then you track like how many books you've read in a year and everything like that. And I had set a goal for myself to read like 20 books. Oh, Goodreads. That's what it's called. Okay, so there's this app called Goodreads, and you can like type in your books that you're reading. You can like update how many pages you're on, all these different things, and you have different reading challenges. And I set a goal of 15 books, and I read 2 on my vacation.
Nice.
And those are the only 2 books I've read this entire year. But I really enjoy. I guess that's not true. I've read other books, but they're for like work and school and like those types of things. Like,
yeah,
not
like,
for pleasure. I would like
leisure reads.
Yeah. So obviously 15 was too high. So I'm thinking I might try to do like a 10 book challenge.
Oh, nice.
For myself. I really enjoy reading. I just don't tend to have a lot of free time to be able to read. But I think it would be fun to do like a book challenge this year. I really I have a lot of friends that have gotten like Kindles or into different like like the ACOTAR series and stuff like that. And like, I think it'd be fun to do a reading challenge this year. So that's what my goal is this year.
Nice. I think that's super fun. Yeah. I always say like, I remember when reading used to be fun.
When I love to read, I just like, my brain gets so tired.
Yeah.
That sometimes I just want to sit and like scroll on TikTok or watch a show and like not have to think about it versus like when I'm in a book, I get too into it and then I don't sleep. And
Preach.
You know what I mean? And so I just need something. I want to read more, but like I need to dedicate more time to it, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, preach. Yeah, I think reading's a big goal for me this year just because I think a lot of it comes down to, I know I enjoy it when I do it, and it's a time for me to like take a break from my phone and from like people. And I love people, but sometimes I'm also like, you need to recognize there's times you need to be by yourself.
Oh, for sure.
And so I think reading's a big one. for me as well. I think this year I just want to build at least like one healthy habit, like something I can do either in like a routine or something.
Drink more water.
Like I haven't figured out what that routine or that habit is quite yet, but habits are hard. Like
Habits are really hard.
Well, that's the thing with habits, right? The ones that I would prefer I didn't have stick around like like they take me 2 days to form and they will be there for years.
Forever, yeah.
And the ones that I know that like are helpful to me, such as like even if I read 10 pages a day, or like stretched before I went to bed, washed my face every night, drank
a glass of water all day long.
Drank water instead of coffee. I think I know those things help me, and then I'll do them like really well for like even 2 weeks, a month, and then all of a sudden I'm like, good job, me, and then I go back to my old habits of not doing those things. So I think that's a big one for me this year is building on some healthier habits.
That's a good one.
Thanks.
Well,
I think that's it. Well, I want to try journaling. I talk a lot in my day-to-day work about journaling, and it's so silly because I did my whole master's project on like the benefits of mindfulness practices and how they can help in general, but specifically with easing like physical pain. Love healthcare. Anyways, and so I did all this research on journaling and how it's like so helpful for like social skills and like emotional health, mental health, and even your physical health. And I'm always just like, bah. And I get so close. I'll buy like the cute journal. I'll buy the cute pens. I'll be like, this journal right here is going to be like something I do once a day, even if it's like a minute.
Yeah.
I just have to write something. And how quickly that cute notebook turns into like a to-do list notebook or like my grocery list notebook and then all this other shit. And I'm just like, okay.
Not the point. Yeah.
And then I flip to the next page and it's like a deep journal entry. And I'm like,
the next one, like, I'm having lasagna for dinner next week.
Monday, lasagna. Tuesday, I
did like a big bullet journal phase during COVID because I'm like, I need something to do. And I'm not much of like a scrapbooker.
Wish I was, but yeah.
I did it as a child. It wasn't good. But like, I enjoy like writing and doing all those things. So I had like a bullet journal and I like made it so I was like making my own planner and it was like
fun.
The perfect thing. So it's like I had a spot for gratitudes, I had a spot for goals, I had a spot for all my homework assignments because I was still in school, and then like each day I had a to-do list plus a spot to write what was for dinner, and then like a shopping list for next week. And it was like very well organized, and I designed each page and I designed my own calendar, and it was like super fun. And then I started working as a teacher and I didn't do it anymore because it took so much time just to do it. And I loved it. But like now I just don't like, I remember starting it the first summer. After my first year of teaching, I started it again.
Mm-hmm.
And in the summer, I'm like, this is great. I'm journaling every day. I had goals for like, I'm going to drink this much water a day. I'm going to exercise for this much minutes each day. I'm going to read for this long each day. And it's so great in the summer. And then I start working and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do bullet journal. But it was so much fun.
It was fun.
But I do enjoy like making my own planner or like making my own calendar. So maybe if it was like a less, then here's my toxic trait. Are you ready?
Ready.
I see all the girlies with their iPads designing their own calendars and their own journals, and they're like, boop, 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 make my own font. And I am like, if I just had an iPad, I would take over the world. Because I could read my books, listen to all my goals. I could journal. I could be more organized with what I want to like cook for dinner. I could read. I could play my little games on there. I could watch TikTok on a bigger screen. Like, I could edit stuff for school. That would be so much fun. Like, graphic design. I see an iPad. And one of those pens. I would be a bad bitch.
The crazy thing is, I'm fine with money. I'm not, like, egregious with it. But I don't understand the intricacies of money. I grew up poor.
Yeah,
I don't know. So I have someone who does all my money shit. Like, I pay someone to do that. Thank you. However, I can't tell you how many times I have watched budget girl videos and they have their iPads and they have this beautiful like setup of like all their fixed expenses and all their variable expenses and how much they're putting away for this and how much. And every time I'm like,
if I had an iPad,
I would be that bitch.
Or I see that too with people that they have their iPad, but also like their cash envelopes.
I bought a book.
I can't get over the like you cash out all of your checks.
Oh, no.
And then you put your cash towards all of these things. What if I lose it?
So I didn't do that because like that was the one frustration I've had when I've gone on YouTube where really money talks. Take that. RCU donuts and budgets podcast.
Give buy an iPad. It'll fix all your problems. And an Apple Pencil.
Yeah. But where the fuck was I going with this?
Budget video.
I am not cashing all my checks. But when you go on YouTube and watch like these very cool, very like click-worthy budget videos, it's all cash.
I know.
And I'm like,
terrifies me.
I don't carry cash like that. I refuse to, firstly.
Yes.
But, excuse me, what I did buy was one of those like 100 envelope books where it's like every envelope is like 1 through 100. And then I pick a number out of a bag and I have to stuff that envelope like once a week.
$1 or $2.
$1, $2. And then like once it's all said and done, it's like almost $6,000. And so like within a year, you can save like $6,000. I bought it. You know how much money I put into it? $0. It is currently just very cute in my drawer.
See, I've seen people do that with just normal envelopes or whatever, but
I got a lavender cute one.
I just see it and I'm like, wow, that's so nice for them.
That's so cute.
But again, I don't have cash, so I would have to like.
I have to go cash. That's why I haven't done it. I will literally have to go cash like $6,000 once.
That's insane. Yeah.
What are you gonna do? I'll let you know when I start that, and then won't the world be a better place?
Maybe next year.
Maybe that's my healthy habit. The fun thing I want to do, though, I want to check something off my bucket list. Like I want to go to a fun concert. I want to like.
You mean ludicrous?
Coming to the area, we've already bought tickets. But like, I don't know, someone else too. You know, someone who I've always either wanted to go see. I don't know. Want to try like new restaurants, new cafes, new breweries. Love good booze.
Love food and drink.
Bring it on.
Healthy habits.
Healthy habits. You know what? Health is a full scope thing. It's not just physical. It's not just, it's also mental, emotional, social.
There you go.
Financial. So just be healthy all the way around.
Find something fun.
Find something fun. And for those of you who are like, I never do resolutions, I hope you can just find something you want to do in the next year, right? If resolution's too big of a word for you, say goal.
And hopefully good things come your way in 2024.
We're hoping good things for you.
Happy New Year!
Bye!